You might think this format was solved, but you thought like an idiot. Oh wait, no, I don't want to. No, I don't. If you thought the format was solved, you have not met Struggle Bug Doug. Hey, Nick of 9 Card TCG, and I know it sounds like I just had a little bit of a stroke, but I promise this was a really cool deck that I saw over on Twitter from Struggle Bug Doug. I think they played in a cup. Yes, they went 6-0 for first place at a league cup. So congratulations to Doug for the win and for using such an interesting and different deck that I'm actually excited to talk about, other than just the same Gardevoir Lugia, even though I played Lugia. It's something different. It's something different, and I'm always happy to talk about something just a little different. We're going to talk about the deck list. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to talk about the matches that Doug played, and a little bit of extra info that I saw from Doug's Twitter thread about this deck. So let's get straight to it. So this deck is already, just looking at it, like, what is happening here? And the answer is, well, a lot. First off, we have Arceus V Trinity Charge. We get to just attach a DTE, and now we're searching our deck for 3 energies, or 3 basic energies, and attaching them to our Pokemon V in any way we want. That's really good if we're going second and it's our first turn. Anytime after that, we want to be using Arceus V Star Trinity Nova for 3 colorless energies. Now we're hitting for 200, and we get the same search deck for 3 basic energies and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you want. We also have the Starbirth V Star Power, which is a once per game ability that lets us search our deck for literally any 2 cards we want and put them into our hand. Absolutely incredible. Now, our options for the Pokemon we accelerate these energies to with Trinity Charge and Trinity Nova are pretty limited. We can accelerate to Arceus, whether it's itself or another benched Arceus. We have Galarian Moltres V with the Dire Flame Wings ability. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic Dark Energy from your discard to this Pokemon. You can't use more than 1 Dire Flame Wings each turn. That's fine. We only have 1 Moltres anyway. And then we have the attack Aura Burn for 2 Dark and a colorless, hits for 190, and we do 30 damage to ourselves. Now, why do we run the Moltres instead of the Drapion? The answer is, well, Gardevoir. Drapion, according to Doug, was a little bit too clunky in the deck for anything that was not Mew, especially in the Gardevoir matchup. And then you have Moltres, which is a little easier to power up and worked a little bit better against Gardevoir. So if you're looking to play against Gardevoir, have a better matchup against Gardevoir, play the Moltres. If you're really concerned about Mew, play the Drapion. But just know the Drapion's kind of useless in almost everything else. The other Pokemon V that we have seen very little use from is Delphox V. This is a Fire-type Pokemon, 210 health, retreat cost of 2, weak to water, Eerie Glow for a single fire energy. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned and confused. Okay, this could be like an okay last-minute option in a deck against something like a Lugia deck where you could try to confuse them. Maybe they fail the attack and they damage themselves a little bit. But it doesn't really help against Mew because they can retreat super easy. I guess even Lugia can just retreat and accelerate energies to something else to attack, so it doesn't really help there. It doesn't help against Lost Zone decks because they have so many switch outs. Gardevoir can accelerate energies and retreat really easily, so I don't know how often you're going to use Eerie Glow, but what we really want to use this for is Magical Fire for 2 fire and a colorless, does 120 damage, and we have to put 2 energy attached to this Pokemon into the Lost Zone, and then we do an extra 120 to one of our opponent's benched Pokemon, which is really cool. Now, one of the obviously big issues is Manaphy. Manaphy is a card that exists in a lot of decks simply because Radiant Greninja is just really good, and Chien-Pao makes Radiant Greninja that much better. So Manaphy is something you have to deal with, but there are decks like Lugia that don't really run Manaphy. There are decks like Gardevoir that might not know that you're running the Delphox until it's too late. So then they don't put the Manaphy down because they see Arceus and they're like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about Radiant Greninja, so I'm not going to bench the Manaphy. And then you go ahead and hit them with the Delphox out of nowhere. So you can kind of catch them by surprise before they put the Manaphy down, because you can power up this Delphox pretty quickly. We have there is a line of play that we can do. If we have the Delphox on the bench, we can go ahead and use Magma Base, which lets us take a fire energy from our discard and attach it to one of our benched fire Pokemon. That Pokemon will then take 20 damage. we can then use something like Raihan to accelerate another energy from the discard and attach it to one of our Pokemon and then search our deck for any card we want. Well, if we accelerate a fire energy from using Raihan from the discard to the it's like the Delphox, we can then search our deck for something like a jet energy, which we can attach to the bench Delphox and move it into the active without having to waste any resources or energies from our active Pokemon. So do keep in mind, Raihan you can only use if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. So there are some like convoluted, it is a little bit of a combo play, right? One of our Pokemon has to be knocked out. We have to have 2 fire energies in the discard. We have to have a magma basin. We have to have the Raihan. We have to have the jet energy. Granted, we can find one of those missing pieces, the magma basin or the jet energy, using the Raihan, but still, fair number of things have to happen in order to make that play, though it is one we can make. Radiant Charizard, Excited Heartless Pokemon's attack costs 1 colorless less for each prize card our opponent has taken, and we can just hit it for a single fire energy, and then we do 250 damage. Can't attack during our next turn, but whatever. We're just using this at the end of the game to just blow up whatever's in the active. And considering that we do have that Magma Basin, some fire energies, and the Raihan, getting the energy onto the Charizard towards the end of the game should be pretty easy. Now we do have the Curlia with Refinement. We can go ahead and discard a card from our hand to draw 2 cards. So if it's something we don't need, or we want to get a fire energy in the discard so we can go ahead and use Magma Basin or Raihan or something, we can go ahead and do it like that. Also, just really good consistency. But on top of that, the Curlia evolves into Gallade, and we have 2 different Gallades here. First, we have this fighting type Gallade. This is from Chilling Reign. It has faint, single psychic energy, does 60 damage, not affected by resistance. Not bad, but really we want to be hitting with Dyna Blade, 60 damage times the number of Pokemon V our opponent has in play. Now, even against something like a Mew VMAX deck, they're going to have 6 Pokemon V in play if they fill their bench, right? And they don't have you're playing like DTE Mew, they get 4 Genesects into play, and they got 2 Mews. That's 6. Well, 6 times 6 is 360. Even if we subtract 20 from the DTE, now we're hitting for 340. And if we subtract 30 for resistance, because Mew does resist fighting, well, 340 minus 30 for resistance is still 310 damage, enough to KO a Mew VMAX with a fighting type single prize Pokemon for 1 energy attachment. That is really, really good. Now, again, they do have to have 6 Pokemon V in play to make it happen, but it's still doable. You shred through Arceus, you shred through any electric type that's not Flying Pikachu VMAX, so like Miraidons, Regielekis, things like that. You're going to absolutely crush those things as well. So some use out of the fighting type Gallade, and then we do have the Gallade. This is the Astral Radiance Gallade, 160 health. Buddy Catch, we can search a deck for a supporter card and put it into our hand. It's a very, very strong ability. And then Swirling Slice for a Psychic Double Colors, 160 movement energy from this Pokemon to one of our bench Pokemon. Another way of setting up something like the Delphox or the Radiant Charizard for the following turn. Also lets us put some energies onto another Pokemon that maybe needs it, like the Moltres, the Arceus. We can go ahead and move an energy from like the Glade to a Curlia. So now we have a pivot, right? Because Curlia has a retreat cost of 1. So we move psychic energy from the Glade to the bench Ralts, and now we have a guaranteed pivot for the following turn. Because if you notice, we really don't have a lot of pivot options. We have a single escape rope. That's our only pivot option. But as far as finding all of these Pokemon, we do have a lot of Pokemon search. We have 4 Nest Balls. We can go ahead and search our deck for a basic Pokemon and put it directly onto our bench. Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards, search a deck for any Pokemon and put it into your hand. Level Ball lets us find any Pokemon with 90 HP or less and put it into our hand. Heavy Ball, we look at our prizes and take a Pokemon from there and put it, I think it has to be a basic Pokemon, from our prizes, and then we can swap Heavy Ball with that basic Pokemon from the prizes, which is a really good thing too, because then we just get to search our prizes, and we don't have to like search through the deck and try to figure out our prizes. We just look directly at them. And then we do have a Capturing Aroma Flip a coin. If heads, you get an evolution Pokemon. If tails, you get a basic Pokemon. We have very limited recovery options. We have Super Rod, which allows us to get up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energies, and we shuffle them from the discard back into the deck. And this is nice for a couple of reasons. One, it lets us recover something like a Radiant Charizard. It lets us recover like a Moltres, so we can hit into things really hard. Maybe we want to, refine the Manaphy or whatever it is we're trying to look for. We can get that Pokemon back into the deck, but it also allows us to recover and recycle energies, so we can accelerate them with Arceus, which is really, really important, so that later, when an Arceus gets KO'd, we can still make sure that we are accelerating energies to attackers as necessary. The other recovery card we have is Pal Pad Shuffle up to 2 supporters from our discarded back into our deck. Really good because we do want to make use of a couple of supporters more than once, namely Sharon's Care. Sharon's Care lets us take a damaged or a colorless Pokemon that has damage counters on it and put it back into our hand. We put all cards attached to it into our hand as well. So we hit, the idea, right, is we have 2 Arceus on the bench and we accelerate, we hit with Trinity Nova or we use Trinity Charge from the active Arceus to power up a benched Arceus, and then our opponent hits into the active Arceus, and then we say, okay, well, you didn't knock us out, so now I'm going to go ahead and play Sharon's Care, and I'm going to pick up that Arceus, and I'm going to put it back down after I promote the benched Arceus, so that you essentially did nothing last turn. You didn't progress, you didn't work, you're not working towards winning as much because you weren't able to knock out my Arceus or get any closer to knocking out my Arceus because I, recovered all that damage. Anyway, it allows us to cycle through our Arceus. You hit into it, okay, we pick it up, we promote a new one, we bench, and then we can accelerate energies to the newly benched Arceus, and that's how we want to do it. So we have Pal Pad, so we can go ahead and use Sharon's Care and then put it back into the deck so we can use it again. It allows us to reuse Boss's Orders and Raihan. We probably don't need to reuse Serena very much, but it does allow us to reuse Iono, which is a great supporter. Iono lets us, each player shuffles their hand into the deck, and then, do not do that, you will get a game loss. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it to the bottom of their deck, and then you draw up cards equal to the number of prize cards you have remaining. So if your opponent has 3 prize cards remaining, and they knock out your Arceus V-Star, well, now they go down to 1, you can hit them with that Iono, dropping down to just a single card in hand. And now for things like God of War, even Shampoo, which has Bibarel, Lost Zone decks, that one card, it might be all they need because they have things like Flower Selectings, Refinements, Industrious Incisors, things like that to go ahead and recover off of the Iono. But opposing Arceus decks might not be so lucky like this. We have the Refinement ourselves, so we can go ahead if we have a couple of Curlias set up. Fine, you Iono us down to 1, but we're going to get a top deck, so now we have 2 cards in hand. We discard one of them with Curlia, now we have 3 cards in hand. And then we discard another one, now we have 4 cards in hand. And oh look, we found a supporter. Now we have however many cards, you know what I mean? That's kind of how we want to do this. Path to the Peak turns off other abilities like God of War EX's Psychic Embrace. It's going to turn off opposing Arceus V-Stars. It's going to turn off Mew, or just going to turn off Genesect. Really, all that kind of stuff. It allows Lugia. It can be really disruptive for Lugia. If they can never get the Arceus into play, it's going to be really difficult for them to ever do anything. So we can use Path to the Peak to turn off other opposing Pokemon. This could be Tinglu. We turn off a Tinglu because if they turn off all of our refinements and all that kind of stuff with, or a Buddy Catch with something like the Tinglu EX ability, well, we can't play the game too well either. So we have to go ahead, slap down a Path to the Peak and turn off Tinglu. Probably not going to be useful, but it's worth mentioning. And then we have just a few energies: Psychic, some Dark, some Fire. We talked about Jet Energy. V-Guard Energy makes it a little bit harder for things to KO us if they're Pokemon V. And then a bunch of Double Turbo Energy, because as we saw, Arceus uses colorless energy. The Radiant Charizard uses a bunch of colorless energy. The Fighting Glade uses double colorless. The Psychic Glade uses double colorless. So now we have the option of attacking with the Psychic Glade. We can attack with, there was another Pokemon. I thought there was something else that used the Psychic. Oh, we have the Faint. Faint uses a Psychic Energy, so we have that option as well for both Glades. The challenge of this deck is we don't have that many basic energies. We have 7 basic energies, and we we need to accelerate. We need to put 3 of them, ideally 1 and a double turbo energy, onto an Arceus. Now we have 6 left. Well, if we accelerate the other 3 onto our Pokemon V, that leaves us 3 more energies, or 3 more basic energies in the deck, and we can't accelerate to any of these Pokemon, right? We can only accelerate to these Pokemon V. So energy conservation is pretty important. You probably want to keep that Super Rod like we talked about. That's really the whole deck. What did Doug play against? Let me find out real quick. So this was a best of 3, and Doug played. He 2-0'd versus Lost Zone Giratina, 2-0'd versus Gardevoir, 2-0'd versus Colas Lugia, then round 4 took an ID, 2-0'd versus Single Strike Lugia, 2-0'd versus Lost Zone Giratina again, and then 2-0'd against a Lost Zone box. I don't know if that was like a Turbo, a Kyogre, or if that was used a V Pokemon like the Drapion, Raikou, Dragonite build. I don't really know, but he went 2-0 in every single matchup that day. Absolutely incredible. Did not drop a single game minus the 1 ID. Really, really impressive. So super cool to see. I think this deck is very, very interesting. Do I think it's great? Do I think it has a super good spot in the format? Or I don't really know. I haven't played it. Maybe it's something I try out. I can build this. I have to have all the cards to make this thing happen. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I have this Glade, but I have everything else at the very least. So maybe we'll give it a shot. Who knows? But let me know what you think of this deck profile. Is this something that you're interested in trying or seeing? Have you seen someone else play something like this? I want to hear from you, but that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, found it informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Tells YouTube this is a good channel and other people should watch it. Yeah, that's it. I'll see you next time. I want to give a special shout out to the YouTube members Black Wins, Mike the Highest, Fernando Ortiz, Chin Pokemon, and Eric N. Thank you all so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. And if you want to become a channel member, you can go ahead and click the channel member button somewhere at the bottom of the page. I'm not really sure. I haven't done it myself.